Hey Insiders, today on this day trip, I brought my friends with me and we're checking out the Great Big Game Show on iDrive.
If you ever yelled the answer to a game show from your couch,
Yeah, obviously.
Orlando's newest iDrive attraction is your dream come true.
Yeah!
You play a series of different classic TV style mini games.
If you want to know what it's really like to be on a game show, just watch the full episode at clickorlando.com/insider. Signing up to be an insider is free and easy. Plus, it's the only way you can keep up with our adventures around Central Florida. And while you're there, make sure to nominate your favorite teacher for the New 6 Educator of the Week award, sponsored by Osborne Francis and Pettis Law Firm.
Well, from food stamps to the final frontier, one woman's story proves the path to space isn't always a straight line.
Yeah, she's the first woman to command and pilot a space shuttle. Opens up like never before, as her story is now on the big screen, inspiring a new generation to reach higher. As excitement builds around NASA's next chapter in space, one trailblazer says the journey forward is also a reminder of how far we've come.
Well, yes, space is back because we're doing something new now.
Retired Air Force Colonel Eileen helped make history as the first woman to pilot and command a space shuttle.
Liftoff of Space Shuttle Discovery.
I flew twice as pilot, twice as commander.
Now her story is hitting the big screen with a new documentary currently in theaters called Space Woman. She reveals her path to space was anything but easy.
We were on welfare for a period of time after my dad went away. We were on food stamps.
At just 17 years old, Collins stepped into a role she never expected.
So I ended up with my younger brother and sister, kind of taking care of them for several months. I mean, I took charge and I just did the mom thing.
Yeah. A dream that started in childhood didn't always feel within reach.
I was in 4th grade when I decided I wanted to be an astronaut, and back then there were no women astronauts, so that was like the first barrier.
Through community college and the military, she found her path and her confidence.
I really liked the organization of the military and the fact that you had a mission and you knew what was expected of you.
Years later, she would lead one of NASA's most critical missions, returning to flight after tragedy.
I knew that my flight was going to be the safest shuttle flight ever. I wasn't going to fly it unless I knew it was safe.
But even as a commander, she was still a mom, navigating fear at home.
Okay, say goodbye.
Bye.
In the documentary, her daughter Bridget, who was just 9 at the time Collins commanded the return to space flight, reveals what it was like to have an astronaut mom.
A 7-year-old version of myself was like, Mom is going to die in space.
Today, Collins says space changed how she sees everything.
I look back at the Earth on my missions and you look and say there's like 7 billion people on that planet and everybody's got issues, everybody's got problems. It's not all about me. There's something so much bigger.
And as a new generation looks toward the stars, her message is simple.
You can do anything you want. You can even be an astronaut because look at me, I made it.
And if given the chance to go back?
If they asked me to go, I would say yes.
Would you?
Oh, yeah.
All right, she's phenomenal. A special screening of Space Woman took place earlier this week on the Space Coast, including an in-person Q&A session with Collins. To check for extended runs or additional show times, we put the link on clickorlando.com. What a treasure to be able to speak to her and glean some of her life experience and what she brings to the program. But she said she's retired, but she would go to space in a minute.
Yeah, you picture astronauts having these perfect backgrounds and
Not so.
brilliant people.
Not
It turns
so.
out she had to overcome some stuff to get there. Very cool to watch that. Great job on that story.
Yeah.
Meteorologist Jonathan Kagas joining us now. It's gonna feel like a great time to be at the beach, but inside that water could get a little dicey.
Yeah, be careful. Of course, you've heard about the rip current risk. We've been talking about it for the last 7 to 10 days. Of course, last week we had the nasty wave conditions, the nasty beach conditions. Now it's kind of hidden, but that rip current risk is still through the roof for the next couple of days. A lot of people in the water. Just make sure you're paying close attention. Again, the red flag is flying. You see it right there on the lifeguard tower. That means, again, it is very dangerous to get into the water. Hanging around 80 degrees in the air temperature department anyway. The breeze out of the east-northeast at about 10 miles an hour. We're going to see the temperatures continue to go up over the weekend. Water temperature is going to be right around 70 degrees. For tomorrow, we're right around 80 degrees again. UV index, of course, that's going to be high for the foreseeable future. The rip current risk, again, also remaining high, but the surf continues to back down a little bit on the more gentle side at about 2 feet. Now the waves will be breaking. The breeze, again, much lighter as well out of the east at about 5 miles an hour. High tide tomorrow, again, it's happening in the morning again. We'll see the evening high tide cycle come in a couple of hours. Most susceptible to the rip current risk will be at high tide. Low tide through early tomorrow afternoon. The good news is, again, that's that the peak heating, of course, are just about to just keep it easy out there if your plans do take you to the beach over the very, very warm, likely record-breaking weekend. 80 in Palm Coast, 85 in Orlando. Wildwood, we are back to 86 degrees right now. Now, tomorrow morning, nice and comfortable start again. We're back into the lower 60s day by day, as we've been talking about. We're going to add about a degree or two to the temperatures as we gradually warm things up until we get into the weekend. So here we go. High temperature forecast again for tomorrow. Back into the upper 80s in Oviedo. We're pushing 90 already across the I-75 corridor. Lower to mid 80s right along the coast as well as we start to see the wind back off a little bit. The influence of that air from the Atlantic again going down a little bit as we continue to watch the wind back off. There's our next storm system. It's pushing back off towards the north and west. It's coming through parts of Wyoming and the northwest Colorado right now. That is our next cold front that's going to change things up a little bit. Not in terms of rain chances, but in terms of some cooler air. Before that gets here, both Saturday and Sunday, we're talking about the potential to break some records in the high temperature department. There comes the cooler air. Note the rain chances. Very, very subtle. Certainly pretty much non-existent rain chances, as you'll see on the 7-day forecast, only at about 20%. Now here's a look at your forecast. Temperatures over the next couple of days going to get back into the lower 90s on Saturday and Sunday. We're at 91 degrees on Sunday, 80 on Monday with a 20% shot for a couple of showers. And then there is that cooler air.
Thank you. Well, seeing a live show can be priceless, but the process to get there could have a really big impact on your wallet and your time.
That's the truth. Well, the courtroom loss for Ticketmaster and Live Nation and the possible payback for fans. That is next.
All right, let's take a live look now. This is the Kia Center in downtown Orlando from our Light Orlando Delivering Hope Together camera. We have some encouraging news for people who love to go to concerts there and have gone through a Ticketmaster website crash. Raise your hand. A jury says Ticketmaster and its owner Live Nation ran an illegal monopoly.
Millions of music fans have been waiting for this news right here. CBS's Jo Ling Kent explains what this means for you.
While experiencing a live show feels priceless, the cost for millions of fans has become an increasingly tough pill to swallow. But soon that could change. On Wednesday, a federal jury ruled that Live Nation and its subsidiary Ticketmaster illegally operated as a monopoly, driving up ticket prices while eliminating competition. More than 30 state attorneys general joined the lawsuit, including New York's Letitia James, who applauded the ruling and said Live Nation and Ticketmaster have taken advantage of fans and artists for far too long. It's been an issue for years. 3 decades ago, Pearl Jam told Congress Ticketmaster had a monopoly over distribution. And in 2022, Taylor Swift slammed Ticketmaster, and her fans sued over the chaotic presale for her Eras tour.
They were robbing consumers blind.
Former U.S. Assistant Attorney General and Antitrust Chief Jonathan Cantor brought the initial federal lawsuit against Live Nation in 2024.
Is it possible that consumers receive refunds on past tickets and get cheaper prices on tickets going forward?
Yes, the state attorneys general are going to collect hundreds of millions of dollars, and I expect them to give that money right back to the consumers who are overcharged.
Live Nation released a statement saying in part the jury's verdict is not the last word on this matter, and it can and will appeal any unfavorable rulings. It's now up to a federal judge to decide the penalty for the ticketing giant in the coming months.
I certainly think that financial penalties are on the table. What you could also see is a judge saying either that parts of Live Nation need to be broken up or that Live Nation has to divest and sell Ticketmaster.
Jo Ling Kent, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Troopers say they stopped a man on I-75 and ended up finding a truckload, or more accurately, an RV load of marijuana.
Yeah, what made them stop the driver in the first place and how a canine alerted them. I don't know how this dog wouldn't have smelled it. Plus,
well, this flower shop in Winter Gardens say they are seeing the impact of having higher gas prices, how they're handling it ahead of Mother's Day.
Welcome back. We're following several top stories right now.
Orange County Sheriff's deputies tell us they arrested a man accused of stealing from the Rialto apartments where nearly a month ago hundreds of people had to evacuate. Deputies said they found 4 bank cards when they arrested 31-year-old Israel Jacobowitz. He's facing a list of charges. In Daytona Beach, we're learning no one will be facing charges in the video that shows a police officer punching a man in the head. The state attorney's office has not said why. A warning along the coast: be careful in the water this weekend because of rip currents. 2 tourists drowned in Cocoa Beach on Tuesday. Rescuers warn only swim when you are in sight of a lifeguard.
A mother who was hurt while at a restaurant with her 2-year-old is now filing a lawsuit. Last year, we told you how part of that ceiling at Flyers Wings and Grill collapsed on the mom. Your Pine Hills community correspondent, Jarrell Baker, explains what he's learning about the business.
Parts of the ceiling and the air conditioning unit came crashing down on Deja Stover and her daughter while they were eating right here at Flyers Wing and Grill back in October, and now that mother is filing a lawsuit.
I'm scared to go eat inside of there because it can fall again.
A spot for good vibes and food for Deja Stover is now a place of pain and disappointment.
I have my birthday parties there, I have celebrations there. No one really came and helped me off the ground when it happened.
She's still feeling the injuries from last year after part of the restaurant ceiling and AC unit came crashing down.
I had a brain injury, so it was kind of hard to walk outside with the sunlight. Also, I had bulging discs in my neck.
Wednesday, Stover and her attorneys filed a lawsuit seeking an excess of $50,000, alleging that the Department of Business and Professional Regulation handed out several violations to Flyers Wings and Grill in 2023 and 2024 and 2025. All related to mold and grease buildup on the ceiling in different areas of the restaurant. Her lawyers also say a previous client was injured by a falling ceiling tile at the restaurant in August of 2024, which was settled confidentially.
One of our clients was injured when ceiling tiles collapsed and hit her in the head at a different part of the restaurant.
I went back to the restaurant looking for answers.
We're doing a story that Deja Stover, who was injured here in October, filed a lawsuit against Flyers. I was wondering to see if I can speak with the manager.
No, nobody wants to talk right now.
Nobody wants to talk?
I emailed management asking about the allegation and what's been done to fix the ceiling. So far, no response. Meanwhile, state records show the restaurant was cited again for ceiling violations during its most recent inspection in December for mold and grease buildup on the ceiling in different areas of the restaurant. In Pine Hills, Jarrell Baker, News 6.
Investigators say thanks to a canine, they were able to stop a man traveling with 2,000 pounds of marijuana on I-75. Troopers shared these pictures with us you're about to see. It happened yesterday near the Wildwood exit. Investigators say they first saw the driver in a pickup truck towing a camper, swerving into another lane before stopping him. That's when another trooper, along with his canine, arrived, and that dog got to work. The dog alerted the troopers, and investigators say they looked into the camper. That's where they found a total of 47 large bags of marijuana. They eventually arrested William Hicks and took him to jail, and that is where he remains tonight.
In the Middle East, Israel and Lebanon have agreed to temporarily stop fighting. That was a precondition from Iran before it would agree to a deal with the U.S. The potential truce comes as Iranian officials continue to say an agreement to stop Israeli strikes on Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon is important to the bigger ceasefire with the U.S. set to expire next week. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth warned Iran that if the regime doesn't accept the deal, the U.S. military is, quote, reloading with more power.
If Iran chooses poorly, then they will have a blockade and bombs dropping on infrastructure, power, and energy.
Also today, the Pentagon announced it's expanding the U.S. military blockade on Iranian ports in the Strait of Hormuz. Central Command says it's turned away 14 vessels since the blockade began. Oil prices are on the rise, but still holding below that $100 mark. Let's get a check of the gas prices. Today's national average for a gallon of regular is $4.09. That's 1 cent less than yesterday. Here in Florida, the average still $4.12. Those of you in Marion County have the most expensive average around here, sitting at $4.86. Those higher gas prices are really impacting small businesses. Your Orange County community correspondent, Tylisa Hampton, joins us from Winter Garden, where a flower shop is having to make some really tough decisions, but still making sure you can get something special for your family.
We're going behind the scenes of this flower shop in Winter Garden that's been open for years. However, they say this year they're facing challenges with higher gas prices, really having to pivot how they handle deliveries ahead of Mother's Day. Here at Betty J's Florist in Winter Garden, they've spent decades tending to every flower, but this year there's a new thorn in their side.
The tariffs have hurt us. Inflation has hurt us, gas prices have hurt us, flower prices have quadrupled.
With Mother's Day quickly approaching, manager Mary Beth Jackson knows orders will soon pour in, with many of them requiring delivery.
You know, the last year we did deliveries, we did over 100.
But despite higher gas prices, they're not passing that cost on to customers.
Most of them have been doing business with Betty J's for 2 or 3 generations and their family. We don't want to do any more damage to their budget than flowers already do.
Already knowing they're going to be spending more money at the pump.
We're going to be spending probably the week of Mother's Day $1,000 or more in gas prices.
Wanting to make each delivery count. They're already re-strategizing how they make their deliveries because of those higher gas prices.
Everything's got to go out as expeditiously as possible. There's a couple of neighborhoods in Winter Garden that we will not go to on Mother's Day.
Drivers will be focused on moving quickly and efficiently to make sure every arrangement arrives right on time and still feels special.
All right, sir, tell her happy birthday from Betty J's.
And Jackson says there are other options to find cheaper flowers like at big box stores, but if you want their fresh flowers, to just give them a call, tell them what works within your budget, and she says they will try to work with you. Reporting in Winter Garden, I'm your West Orange County community correspondent, Tylisa Hampton.
People living in Daytona Beach want answers and accountability. It's all in response to an audit raising serious questions about how leaders spent $500,000 tax dollars. We've told you for weeks now how the audit showed fire leadership spent $50,000 on fast food, 15 TVs, car repairs, and even a beer can cooler. News 6's Amy Russo was at the city meeting and shares what's next.
Originally, Wednesday night was supposed to be the night that we would find out the future of the city manager position in Daytona Beach. However, we'll all have to wait. That's because the commission decided to table that vote until the next meeting on May the 6th, and that had some people in the audience frustrated. Audible sighs came from the audience after the Daytona Beach City Commission decided to table a vote on whether to renew Derek Feature's contract as city manager. It was ultimately decided by Mayor Derrick Henry, casting the tie-breaking vote. The idea, though, came from Commissioner Stacey Cantu.
How can you renew a contract without an evaluation? I will make a motion to have it come back to us at the next commission meeting.
Commission agreeing with Cantu that an evaluation into Feature's performance should be done before they decide on renewing his contract. The mayor, feeling the disappointment from the community that this was not decided, addressed it.
I don't want anyone to think that, I'm having cold feet about my commitment to where we're going as a community in this. Let's wait and let's give a firm and fair and comprehensive evaluation so that the manager knows where we stand, and then so that he will also be able to have an opportunity to address those concerns moving forward.
It's a high-stakes decision coming after a sweeping audit of the city's finances, which highlighted some concerning spending, and many blame the city manager. It shows from 2021 to 2025, the fire department had charged more than $500,000 on purchasing cards, or P-cards, which violates city rules. In addition, the auditor also found more than $50,000 was spent on food and drinks, along with hundreds of purchases with missing receipts. $50,000 more was flagged in unexplained tech purchases. Presumably, the audit will be a point of interest during Feature's evaluation.
Feature has served as city manager since 2021. His current contract is set to expire at the end of May. Again, the city commission is expected to vote on a renewal of his contract at their next commission meeting. That's set for May the 6th, and we'll be sure to keep you updated on what happens in that meeting. In Daytona Beach, Amy Rousseau, News 6.
Well, it's a sad reality, but a pet can be the reason somebody stays in a violent home.
How a local organization is helping people get out safely and stay with their beloved pets.
I'm your Lake Mary community correspondent, Mark Lehman, and with hurricane season less than 2 months away, the city is working on a plan to reduce power outages. Coming up, the move affecting these lines near City Hall.
This portion of the news is sponsored by Original Mattress Factory.
We've said it many times, but it bears repeating. Many domestic violence survivors will not leave an abusive situation if it means abandoning their pet. But Harbor House and the Pause for Peace Kennel keep people and their pets together.
News 6 anchor Lauren Melendez spoke with the organization's CEO and the kennel advocate about how the program is changing choices and saving lives.
Talk to me about Harbor House. What is it? How many lives has it impacted?
So Harbor House, we're the certified domestic violence center that's here in Orange County. And so in our emergency shelter, we have 136 beds, and we typically have housing for at least 1,000 individuals every year in our emergency shelter. And the Pause for Peace Kennel is part of it because we want to remove as many barriers as possible to someone leaving a domestic violence situation. And so we don't want someone to leave their furry companions, their loved ones behind. And so that's why we have the program on site. It's set up so people can bring in cats, they can bring in dogs, they can bring in all different types of animals. And then they have an amazing kennel advocate that's there to help them navigate all the different challenges that might have happened when there was animal abuse happening in the home or neglect happening in the home.
And so, Amanda, as an advocate with the kennel, can you talk about have you met any people who say, look, the fact that I could bring my animal made all the difference between me asking for help and actually leaving a domestic situation?
Oh, absolutely. I've had quite a few survivors that have told me that they likely would have never sought, safety if it meant leaving their pet behind. For many survivors, their pets are family. And Paws for Peace works hard to make sure that we get to keep them all together when they're seeking that safety and not continuing to create barriers where they otherwise wouldn't have sought safety.
This kennel is so important because it provides sort of 360 care, right? Like, you don't just take care of the person, but then those animals get vaccines, they get spayed and neutered, they get loved on every day, just as the survivor would need to be. Can either of you touch on just maybe the numbers, how many people you're seeing, how many pets you're caring for? Maybe it's in a month, in a year, or however you go through
Yeah, absolutely. So last year we had 60 animals that were in our emergency kennel. The year before that we had 56. When we first started the program, it was in the teens, maybe 17 a year, 18 a year. So, collectively, definitely hundreds of animals. And so it's a total life-saving program because if a lot of people they would have to make the decision if they're going to leave their animals behind, knowing that that person was abusing them or they were abusing the animals. And we know that when they're coming in, the entire family is safe.
You can tune in this Saturday at 11:30 a.m. to hear from the women whose lives have been changed because of Harbor House of Central Florida and the Paws for Peace kennel. Plus, meet the community partners who treat the beloved pets without judgment or expensive bills. Then join us Saturday, April 25th for the Paws for Peace walk and run at Mayor Glenda Hood Park, formerly Harbor Park. Registration starts at 7 a.m. with the run getting underway about an hour later, and the walk starts at 9:30. Proceeds go toward the Paws for Peace kennel.
It's always a great event to be out there, too, and
Good
Trooper Steve always
times.
MCs it.
And we need some, let's turn to the weather now. Meteorologist Jonathan Keg is joining us. As we see, the drought monitor might not look good, but it is improved.
Yeah, so let me show you what changed from last Thursday to this Thursday. We were expecting some kind of improvement, just subtle, right along the coast, where we did pick up in some cases 4 to 8 inches of rain. So this is the drought monitor from last week. I want you to look right down where you see the forecast, and I'm going to show you this week. It kind of erodes a little bit. So there is our subtle improvement. The deal is I use improvement lightly because we obviously still need the rain again. That went from an extreme drought to a severe drought in Mico and south of Rockledge, and then down into parts of, for us in Osceola County as well. So we still need a lot of help, especially where we pretty much saw no rain as we moved through the early stages of last work week across the I-75 corridor. So here's where we stand, and clearly Melbourne, we're sticking out like a sore thumb because we did get some much needed rain. For the year, we are an inch above where we should be for this time of the year. Everywhere else, though, is pushing about 5 inches below normal, especially in Orlando, Daytona Beach, Sanford. We're about 3.5 inches below normal. Leesburg, we're also about 3.5 inches below where we should be for this time of the year. Now, over a 3-month period, this is the amount of rain across the state of Florida that it's going to take to completely eradicate the drought in its entirety. And you see some pretty big numbers here. This is 24.5 inches, give or take, throughout the central Florida portion of the state of Florida. Now, to provide more perspective, on average, through the next 3 months, from the middle of April through the middle of June, we see about 8 to 10 inches of rain. So we would have to more than double that, in some cases close to triple that, to completely get rid of the drought. Of course, we get more help in the back half of June and July as the wet season really starts to ramp up. For more perspective, last May we did pick up 13 inches of rain. So if the wet season comes in as it's supposed to, we will start to see things back off a little bit. Now, this is the rainfall over the next 10 days. This is through next Sunday, not this upcoming Sunday. And you see most of the state of Florida kind of high and dry. 0.05 of an inch being picked up by the model. All of the active stuff, this is the pattern that we are in, is being shoved back towards our north and west. So a lot of rain coming towards Louisiana, back to Texas, Nashville, and up into the northeast corner of the United States. We are pretty much completely blocked, at least for the next 10 days, for the most part anyway. Here's a live look outside downtown Orlando with our Light Orlando delivering Hope Skycam. Air temperatures back into the mid-80s. The breeze out of the east-southeast at about 10 miles an hour right now. We're hanging in the upper 70s in New Smyrna Beach. We're at 86 in Wildwood, Kissimmee, and Celebration. we are at 84 degrees. Now here's a look at your forecast against our temperatures. Again, back into the lower 60s to start. Tomorrow, we really start inching up in the warmth department. At Popco, we're closing in on 90 degrees. We're at 91 in Leesburg, 88 in Daytona tomorrow afternoon. Again, a whole lot of sunshine coming down the pipeline. It's not going to stick, though, in terms of the warmer weather that we have surging up over the next couple of days. There's where the chill is starting to bleed back through. By the time we get toward Monday, that is when we start to get in some, relatively speaking, cooler air. So they're in the 90s coming our way over the next couple of days. 80, though, on Monday behind a front. That is our very subtle rain chance at 20%. And then we're back to the 70s for a couple of days early next work week.
Jonathan, thank you. A local city is discussing a plan that could prevent power outages during a hurricane.
How they're considering putting lines underground and what it would mean for the people who live there. That's next.
It's a plan that could prevent outages during powerful storms. I'm your Lake Mary community correspondent, Mark Lehman, and on Thursday, the city is taking up a proposal on the issue. They want to take these power lines that are over here near City Hall and very close to trees and bury them underground.
Throughout the city of Lake Mary, elevated power lines are along the streets and going into more established neighborhoods, while providing ease of access. If there's a problem, the lines are also vulnerable. It's a big reason the city is looking to convert service to underground.
Less things that can come down or trees grow and get in the lines.
Homeowner Kenny Armenta's neighborhood already has buried power lines, something he sees as a benefit for the city.
We rarely have any kind of power outage.
Commissioners are voting to approve picking up the tab for a conversion with Duke Energy. Details are set to be revealed on Thursday, but based on previous expenses for the area, the cost could be around $1 million for the mile from Lake Mary Boulevard to the Special Events Center.
I would think people in other areas would want that if they know the cost and are willing to taxes, whatever.
Converting existing lines often requires special assessments and is labor intensive, but preventing extended power outages after a hurricane may be worth the cost.
Depending on the time of year, if it's summertime, can just get brutal. Can't imagine days.
So far, a time frame hasn't been established for when work out here could begin or how long it will take. Commissioners will be voting on the cost estimate during their meeting that's set for 7 tonight. In Lake Mary, I'm your community correspondent, Mark Lehman, News 6.
News 6 at 5 is next.
Seminole County deputy now facing serious fraud allegations. He's accused of falsifying overtime timesheets again and again. Coming up, how investigators say it happened and what the warning sign was that first raised red flags. And your forecast is only minutes away. Don't forget you can stream our newscasts and live cameras like this look at Daytona Beach for free anytime on News 6 Plus.
Do mornings. It was like, has the sky always been this blue? Is that
I'm Catherine Silver here in Seminole County, where we're learning a second deputy has been arrested for fraud. We now have the court documents that describe how he allegedly stole taxpayer dollars by logging hours he never worked.
And after a deadly day on the water, the community is pushing reform on Brevard County beaches. The warning heading into the weekend. Plus, a troubling police encounter now ending without charges. What new documents reveal about why prosecutors decided not to move forward with a viral arrest video out of Daytona Beach? You're watching News 6 at 5.
Now at 5, that viral video causing outrage after it showed an officer punching a man in the head in Daytona Beach.
Let go of my hand! Let go of my hand! Stop! Stop! He hit my brother! Stop! Stop right now!
Now we're learning no one will be facing charges, at least for now.
And that's not the only thing we've learned.
Yeah, we just received the officer's personnel file from the police department within the last 45 minutes. Your Volusia County community correspondent Molly Reed has been digging into the file, and the charges now dropped.
The state attorney's office would not tell me why the charges are not being filed against David and Victor Anderson, but it did send me documents today saying that the arrests were insufficient made by Daytona Beach police. This is part of the viral video from March 12th showing the altercation between 27-year-old David Anderson and Daytona Beach police officer Joel Linus. The officer's body camera video shows Linus stop Anderson for an open container.
Pour it out, or you're going to go to jail for open container. Those are your options.
Anderson hands over the bottle, then tosses the cork stopper. Linus moves to make the arrest. The video shows a struggle after Anderson is handcuffed. He ends up on the ground, and Linus then appears to throw several punches. Linus told investigators Anderson bit his wrist, according to the arrest report.
Go my hand!
The state attorney's office sent me these documents today. They show it will not prosecute Anderson's charge of battery on a law enforcement officer, nor his brother Victor's charge of resist or obstructing officer without violence. The state attorney's office tells me there will also not be any charges filed against Officer Linus. Local NAACP President Cynthia Slater tells me they're staying on top of what happens to the officer now.
The officer should have been trained in, should have been, or was trained in de-escalation. He should not have taken it to a whole nother level.
I also reached out to the local police union executive director, who sent me a statement saying, in part, we stand by Officer Linus 100% because he was doing the job he was hired and trained to do. Any police officer who gets bitten and then has their wrist grabbed while trying to detain a suspect would and should do the same thing to protect themselves. I'm your Volusia County community correspondent Molly Reed, News 6.
Officer Linus's personnel file shows a police department investigation from last year involving an arrest where Linus was accused of putting the barrel of his rifle up against a suspect's back and threatening to shoot the man. Officer Linus was given a written reprimand for violating the department's restriction on deadly force policy.
Well, you're paying for public safety, but what if the hours you're funding never actually happened? That's the question tonight, as a second Seminole County deputy is now accused of falsifying overtime records and collecting taxpayer money for time investigators say he never worked. Your Seminole County community correspondent Catherine Silver is digging into the documents to find out exactly how it happened.
The Seminole County Sheriff's Office says one of their own deputies turned himself into the jail after a warrant was issued for his arrest for organized fraud. Records show since he was booked, Kevin Jones was released quickly on a $2,500 bond. We came to the courthouse Thursday to find out exactly what Jones is accused of. We got this arrest affidavit. It says Jones submitted false timesheets 21 times starting back in November of 2024. The sheriff's office believes he logged 84 hours of overtime, but actually worked 55 hours. It's a difference of 29 hours, more than $1,700 he's accused of overcharging. The affidavit says Jones worked those overtime details here at the Greenwood Lakes Library in Lake Mary. And one of the library managers actually raised the alarm when she noticed inconsistencies on his timesheet. This is the second time we've gotten a hold of court documents that accuse a deputy of falsifying overtime hours he worked at this library. In February, we told you Nestor Nieves Jr. was accused of pocketing nearly $6,000 and hiding his location to do it. Jones's affidavit also accuses him of deliberately turning off the tracking software on his laptop, a violation of orders. Both deputies were served with notices of proposed discipline for termination. The sheriff's office says Jones was a school resource officer at Geneva Elementary before he was suspended in August, and their investigation started. Jones has been a deputy here in Seminole County for a decade. I asked the sheriff's office again Thursday about oversight. They released a statement saying anytime allegations of misconduct arise, they are thoroughly investigated and they remain committed to accountability, transparency, and trust. In Seminole County, I'm Catherine Silver, News 6.
And this isn't the first time Seminole County has been hit with questions over off-duty detail fraud. A former Sanford officer is expected to be in court tomorrow, accused of running a similar deal there. Planned back in December, former Sanford officer Ronnie Neal was arrested, accused of running an 11-month scheme investigators say generated more than $12,000 in false off-duty work. Court records say he fabricated hours at a Sanford apartment complex using a system designed to track and verify extra duty details. That case, like the latest Seminole County deputy arrest, involves allegations of falsified overtime and taxpayer-related payments, raising questions about oversight inside local agencies. His next hearing is set for 1 p.m. tomorrow. We'll be following what happens in court tomorrow, along with the latest allegations. We'll have all the updates on air and on clickorlando.com.
After 2 recent drownings in South Cocoa Beach, new questions are being raised about beach safety and the lack of lifeguards across much of Brevard County. Now, authorities say a man in his 40s and a woman in her 30s, both out of state, drowned Tuesday while trying to help a child who was caught in a rip current. Now, that child survived. Crews say the area is one of many stretches of Brevard Beach is not guarded, despite the known risk for strong rip currents.
I mean, I don't know that it'll ever be realistic to have a lifeguard at every stub-in street. The best thing we can do is get that awareness out there and get people to understand what they're looking at, and if there is an emergency, how to get those folks there as fast as possible and to the right location.
And as we head into one of the hottest weekends of the year, crews are warning most water rescues and drownings involve tourists who do not recognize the danger before entering the water. Now, even for strong swimmers, rip currents can turn deadly in just seconds. News 6's Mark Lehman was out at a Volusia County demonstration earlier this year where beach safety crews used a new in-pool simulator to show how powerful those currents can be. The goal was to teach visitors and locals how to recognize the danger and survive it before they even reach the ocean. You can watch that full demonstration and share it with your friends by going to clickorlando.com.
But if you are planning to head to the beach this weekend, looks beautiful out there. You have to remember to stay safe.
Yeah, so there's a live look right now over Daytona Beach. It really looks beautiful, but as I said earlier, looks can be deceiving. Meteorologist Jonathan Kakis joins us now with how the surf can really be surprising out there.
That's right, and you guys mentioned even the most experienced swimmers succumb to rip currents, so let alone visitors that may not know much about the ocean or know how to pick them out, certainly even more dangerous. Again, that rip current risk is going to be with us through the weekend. The good news is the water is backing off in terms of the wave heights that have been breaking over the past couple of days and really going back to last week, but that makes it almost more dangerous because it becomes a little more hidden out there. So just be careful, obey the lifeguards if they are there, and again, the red flags likely going to be flying. As Matt and Ginger mentioned, it's going to be pretty hot. We're going to be flirting with record territory in the temperature department, both Saturday and Sunday. We're back into the lower 90s on Saturday, lower 90s again on Sunday. Both days have the opportunity to break some records. I think we're going to see more sunshine on Saturday. By the second part of Sunday, some extra clouds try to roll through. That is because we have a cold front coming through Central Florida. Not going to bring us much, if any, rain, but it is going to take our temperatures back down to take a little tumble. We're going to break down that part of your forecast coming up at about 5:17, guys.
Jonathan, thank you. An unusual twist for people forced out of an Orange County apartment complex. They were already dealing with weeks of uncertainty and trying to get their belongings out, and now they are facing yet another setback.
So we told you the complex in the Dr. Phillips area was condemned last month when the building started sinking. Well, now the sheriff's office says a man was arrested after deputies say he got inside the Rialto and stole from multiple apartments. News 6's Alex Cook is digging into what was stolen and how.
Evacuated from their homes, struggling to find some place to live, and now they can't even trust that their stuff is safe inside. The people who had to evacuate the Rialto apartments were already suffering enough, but now deputies say some of them may have been victimized yet again. They say a man named Israel Jacobowitz got into the condemned building overnight and started helping himself to their belongings. Deputies say he was seen on camera trying doors, took a Ring camera off one apartment, and was walking around with stolen items in a plastic bag. And it wasn't just random stuff either. Deputies say they recovered 4 bank cards belonging to someone who lived here, plus tools taken from a maintenance worker. And honestly, this may be the craziest part. According to the arrest affidavit, a building employee said that Jacobowitz went inside 9 p.m. Wednesday night and was still in there Thursday morning. This is the same building that was evacuated on March 19th after people reported popping sounds and their doors jamming shut, locking them in their apartments. Over 350 people were evacuated and displaced, stuck in limbo, not knowing where to live, only allowed to come back and pick up their personal belongings. Jacobowitz now faces charges of burglary, attempted burglary, grand theft, possession of burglary tools, theft of credit cards, and trespassing in a condemned building. We'll keep following this case, and I'll be out here trying to talk to the people whose stuff is still inside these apartments. In Dr. Phillips, Alex Cook, News 6.
New at 11 now, the Oviedo mayor is responding tonight after a controversial decision by Seminole County Public Schools that could cancel out-of-state field trips. Parents first raised concerns after a state champion volleyball team was denied a trip to Hawaii. The district cited budget pressures and signaled a possible ban on that out-of-state travel. Several parents, though, were speaking out during the board meeting on Tuesday, saying the move could impact student athletes, clubs, and competitions nationwide, even when the teams raise their own money. So now Oviedo Mayor Megan Sladek is pushing back, launching a petition to save those trips and calling for more flexibility from the district. The petition says the school board has since stepped in, asking for the policy to be revised. Back now from the moon and revealing what went wrong and what went right.
Yeah, the crew of Artemis II is opening up after their history-making journey. Coming up, the records they broke and what's next for NASA's return to the moon. And later.
Best friend, why more couples are putting pet custody in writing and what it could cost you if you don't. I'm News 6 business analyst Donovan Myrie. I'll have that story coming up.
NASA's Artemis II crew is reflecting on their historic journey around the moon and back.
NASA astronauts Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, and Christina Cook, alongside Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen, took questions from reporters almost a week after coming home. All new at 5. CBS's Gwen Baumgardner is sharing how they're adjusting back to life on Earth.
Splashdown confirmed at 7:07.
Nearly a week after splashing down,
everything we did up there was a 4-person activity.
The crew of NASA's Artemis II is still riding high.
We launched as friends, and we came back as best friends.
The 4 brave astronauts, Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy, addressed the media Thursday after their historic trip around the moon.
Every time I've been waking up, or in the first few days, I thought I was floating.
I sleep a lot better now because I don't have Reed underneath me kicking me.
Oh, come on!
The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon.
The crew set a new record for human spaceflight, traveling over 252,000 miles from Earth.
Houston copies. We'll see you on the other side.
They also captured images of the moon never before seen by the naked eye and observed a rare deep space solar eclipse.
We're all kind of struck by these things that make us feel small, but yet this very powerful feeling as a human being.
The 10-day test flight wasn't without its issues. Commander Reed Wiseman says the crew encountered a few challenges, including pressure leaks, toilet issues, and warning signals.
You want to get somebody's attention really quick? Make the fire alarm go off in your spacecraft when you're still about 80,000 miles from home.
With the success of Artemis II, NASA already has its next Artemis mission in its sights.
It was easy to accomplish as a team because we had put in the work. We know how to put in the work to make it accomplishable when the time comes.
The space agency says its goal is to return to the lunar surface as early as 2028. Gwen Baumgardner, CBS News.
I think we're all ready for the new season of the Artemis crew.
Oh, yeah, they are very charming.
They really are.
You know that fire alarm went off in the middle of the night, too. That's what happens at the Austin. The smoke detectors, they go off in the middle of the night. Meteorologist Jonathan Kagas joins us now for a look outside. We have some pretty great conditions as long as you're not actually in the water.
That's right. Yeah, watching for that rip current risk. We've been talking about that for quite some time now. Lots of sunshine out there. That's something that I think we keep tomorrow, and especially for the first half of your weekend. This is a live look with our Launch Credit Union camera at Port Canaveral in Brevard County tonight. Again, it is gorgeous. It's going to be another fantastic evening. We have air temperatures back into the upper 70s. The breeze at about 10 to 15 miles an hour under that mainly sunny sky. We are at 78 degrees in Melbourne, 84 in Kissimmee. We're back to 86 right now in Bushnell. The Villages, we are back to 85 degrees. We're hanging out in the lower 80s as well in Titusville tonight. Now, tomorrow morning, we're going to start things off in the low to mid 60s, about a degree or two warmer than where we've been over the past couple of mornings. This is kind of the turning of the tide to at least warming us back up to right around 90 degrees by tomorrow afternoon. But again, all things considered, a very nice and seasonable April morning coming your way to close out your work week. Tomorrow afternoon in Lake Catherine, though, we're back to the lower 90s, 88 degrees in Wedgefield. We're right around 90 in Orlando. A little bit more of the heat toward us along I-75. Low to mid 80s for us as that breeze backs off even further out of the east, still off the Atlantic, but not as persistent, not as strong as where we've been over the past couple of days. But now in Corona, good evening. We are back tomorrow morning into the mid 70s. Lots of sunshine coming away. Just a few passing clouds with the heating of the day into the early afternoon. We're at 87 degrees by 86 degrees later on into the afternoon for your high temperature. Here's the deal. Pattern is changing all over the place. We're looking to the upper Midwest for the next storm system. You see it sliding through there in the green. I'm looking at this big spin here coming out of parts of Idaho into Washington into Oregon. That is our next upper low. It's subtle on the water vapor imagery, but this is what's going to change things up as we get into the early part of next week. So we're fast forwarding Saturday. This big chunk of high pressure chilling over Mexico right now. You see it bleeding back to the southeast corner of the United States. Under these areas of high pressure, it's very dry. It helps to block out other storm systems. And with sinking air that these things promote, it helps us to really warm us up. Hence the near record warmth that we're talking about for the weekend. Now, once we get into Sunday, that little dip in the jet stream of that swirl I showed you in the Pacific Northwest, it starts to work its way in toward the eastern side of the country. And that little dip in the jet stream is going to take a bite out of the heat as we get into the early stages of next work week. But before we get there, it is going to be a little warm, a little toasty on Saturday. 89 in Sanford on Saturday. We're back to 91, though, in Denellen. Again, some of us, especially along the I-75 corridor, going to be breaking some records, at least getting very, very close to that. And again, the pollen forecast, because we're in that stagnant air mass brought to you by that chunk of high pressure, it is going to stay elevated for the foreseeable future. There's really no big weather system to kind of clear out the air. 91 on Saturday, 91 degrees on Sunday with a few passing clouds. I think we'll see clouds going to increase by the afternoon and evening to make way for this cold front that you see there on Monday. 20% shot for a couple of showers. Most of us will be dry. Then there's our relatively cooler days coming our way. Tuesday and Wednesday, a few extra clouds. High temperatures fall back into the upper 70s, guys.
All right, thanks, Jonathan. Open your camera app, scan the QR code on your screen right now, and click the link. We want to see your weather pictures and videos. They could end up on TV. You can also go to clickorlando.com/pins and upload your pictures and videos that way. Well, sometimes for better or for worse, does not include the dog.
More couples are making a surprising move before they walk down the aisle, deciding who gets the pet. If love falls apart, coming up, the pet prenups are on the rise. How your furry family member could spark a costly legal battle.
More couples are planning for what happens after a breakup before they even say, I do. And it's not about the money, it's about the pets. Divorce isn't as common as it once was, but it still happens. Researchers estimate about 40% of first marriages end in divorce. And when relationships do fall apart, the emotional and financial fallout can get complicated. Increasingly, that includes one question couples used to not plan for: who gets the pet? That's where so-called pet prenups come into play. Agreements that spell out custody, costs, and even visitation before a breakup happens. Attorneys say these provisions are showing up more often in prenuptial agreements and breakup negotiations as more couples share pets. One celebrity couple included financial penalties tied to shared custody, penalties that kicked in if someone kept the pet longer than allowed. Legally, in most states, pets are still treated as property, meaning courts can award ownership to one person without shared custody. But that's starting to change, with some states now allowing judges to consider an animal's well-being. Still, without a plan, things can get messy and expensive. Legal disputes over pets can cost thousands of dollars in attorney's fees, sometimes more than the animal's financial value. That's why experts say couples should talk early, put agreements in writing, and decide ahead of time who pays for care and who keeps the pet. As more couples treat pets like family, planning for their future is becoming just as important as planning for finances. For Dollars and Cents, I'm Donovan Myrie.
So a prenup takes place before, right? But a lot of people get a dog after the marriage. So then,
Well, sometimes you
what do
bring it
do?
to the marriage.
Yeah, sometimes you do, but I'm saying it's a complicated
Don't
situation.
you worry.
I'm not. I don't have a dog. Well, the world of Ulta Beauty came to the Orange County Convention Center.
And only a lucky few made it inside. Coming up, we give you a first-hand look at what was offered and why this event is putting Orlando on the map. First, though.
A mother sent to the hospital when the ceiling and the AC unit came crashing down here at Flyers Wings and Grill last year is now filing a lawsuit against them. We'll tell you more about that coming up.
Glad you're with us. I'm Ginger Gadsden.
I'm Matt Austin. You're watching News 6 at 5. We're following several top stories right now. A Seminole County Sheriff's deputy is facing charges for allegedly submitting false timesheets since November of 2024. The Sheriff's Office believes Kevin Jones logged 84 hours of overtime, but actually worked 55. Jones has since been released after posting a $2,500 bond.
In Daytona Beach, we are learning no one will be facing charges in the video that shows a police officer punching a man in the head. The state attorney's office has not said why. We have received the officer's personnel file, though, detailing the moments during when the video was taken. We are digging through those documents right now.
Orange County Sheriff's deputies tell us they arrested a man accused of stealing from the Rialto apartments where nearly a month ago hundreds of people had to evacuate. Deputies said they found 4 bank cards when they arrested 31-year-old Israel Jacobowitz. He's facing a list of charges.
And we are hearing from a mom for the first time months after a night out for dinner ended in disaster.
She's now suing Flyers Wings and Grill in Orlando after parts of the ceiling started to fall on her and her daughter. She says the incident left her with serious, lasting injuries and a constant fear of going back inside. Your Orange County community correspondent Jarrell Baker sat down with that mom who's claiming the business knew about the problems.
Parts of the ceiling and the air conditioning unit came crashing down on Deja Stover and her daughter while they were eating right here at Flyers Wing and Grill back in October, and now that mother is filing a lawsuit.
I'm scared to go eat inside of there because it can fall again.
A spot for good vibes and food for Deja Stover is now a place of pain and disappointment.
I have my birthday parties there. I have celebrations there. No one really came and helped me off the ground when it happened.
She's still feeling the injuries from last year after part of the restaurant ceiling and AC unit came crashing down.
I had a brain injury, so it was kind of hard to walk outside with the sunlight. Also, I had bulging discs in my neck.
Wednesday, Stover and her attorneys filed a lawsuit seeking an excess of $50,000, alleging that the Department of Business and Professional Regulation handed out several violations to Flyers Wings and Grill in 2023 and 2024 and 2025. All related to mold and grease buildup on the ceiling in different areas of the restaurant. Her lawyers also say a previous client was injured by a falling ceiling tile at the restaurant in August of 2024, which was settled confidentially.
One of our clients was injured when ceiling tiles collapsed and hit her in the head at a different part of the restaurant.
I went back to the restaurant looking for answers, but I was told that the manager wasn't available to speak. I emailed management asking about the allegation and what's been done to fix the ceiling. So far, no response. Meanwhile, state records show the restaurant was cited again for ceiling violations during its most recent inspection in December for mold and grease buildup on the ceiling in different areas of the restaurant. I'm your Pine Hills community correspondent, Jarrell Baker.
Jarrell Baker there, thank you. Well, a Flagler County woman accused in the death of her newborn is now fighting to try to get out of jail. Attorneys for 21-year-old Anna Mae Demagillo are asking a judge to reinstate her $250,000 bond ahead of a hearing set for Tuesday. They argue she's not a flight risk, citing no criminal history and the fact that she's already turned over her passport. Investigators say back in March, Demagillo told deputies she gave birth at home, then watched that newborn drown in a toilet before burying the baby in her backyard. The defense claims she's suffering from severe postpartum psychosis and depression and needs medical treatment to prepare for trial.
There's a lot of intent there when there are many other alternatives that she could have had.
She faces a first-degree murder charge. The judge will hear arguments on whether to reinstate that bond Tuesday. We'll let you know what decision is made.
New at 5, we are now hearing the 911 call from the man who spotted a body floating in the Indian River near a busy Melbourne causeway.
I'm on the north side. There's a floating body in the water.
That call coming in Tuesday morning, sparking a police response along the 192 causeway. It's a high-traffic area near downtown Melbourne. Investigators say the body of an adult man was found in shallow waters near a barrier wall, not far from a campsite where they believe he was using. Right now, police say this does not appear to be a criminal case, but the investigation is still active. And we are also waiting for the Brevard County Sheriff's Office to tell us exactly what they were looking for after the agency spent 2 days digging near a huge mall in Viera. We showed you the scene yesterday. Deputies spent 2 days digging a large hole near I-95 and the Avenue Mall in Viera, saying only it's connected to an active investigation. So far, they haven't said what kind of evidence they're searching for or what case this is connected to. The Sheriff's Office has not confirmed if anything has been found, but says it will release more information when it can.
In just minutes, a plan to help the city of Eustis recover from a 1,000-year flood. But if you live there, it could come straight out of your wallet. You see, the county was hit by a storm that caused critical damage to infrastructure, including roads that partially collapsed. As News 6's Mark Lehman shows us, the repair work is set to cost homeowners even more.
One of the lasting images from the historic storm was the situation we saw here in the Spring Ridge Estates neighborhood. Now, the washout was fixed in a matter of weeks, but repairs like this have taken a toll on the city's funds.
Months after record rainfall caused flooding and overwhelmed stormwater systems, Eustis is taking up a couple measures to improve the city's footing. After spending nearly $175,000 to repair a drain pipe off Pine Avenue, commissioners are voting to borrow that money from the general fund.
Actually, the caution tape was attached to the backside of my fence back over there.
Eustis also paid for the repair of a partially collapsed culvert in Spring Ridge Estates that forced 20 families out of their homes.
I'm a big fan of the guys that were actually out here doing the work. They jumped to, and within days and weeks we had this issue solved.
With the storm's costs, the city manager is asking for a 30% increase to stormwater fees. The hike would cost residents an extra $4 a month.
Even a $4 increase hurts, and is impactful.
Homeowner Michael O'Reilly isn't thrilled with the idea of paying more money, but also understanding of the unprecedented circumstance.
We certainly need to chip in, a little bit, and I'm ready to do that as long as it's kept in check and we're not overtaxed in this whole situation.
If approved, the stormwater fee increase would go into effect starting in June. Commissioners will vote on the measure during their meeting at 6 tonight. In Eustis, Mark Lehman, News 6.
It was a day of excitement at the Orange County Convention Center after thousands of people attended Ulta Beauty World, or as some might call it, the Super Bowl of beauty.
Millions of people wanted to get a golden ticket here. Only a few thousand actually got one. And News 6's Lisa Bell is one of the lucky ones. She shares more about what happened inside.
I'm News 6 anchor Lisa Bell inside the Orange County Convention Center for Ulta Beauty World 2026. The one-day event drew people from around the world to connect with more than 200 of the biggest brands and stuff their swag bags loaded with thousands of dollars in free beauty products. Everything from skincare to hair care to nail care.
It's like amazing the amount of things that are happening in this place, like claw machines and like paintings. You're like painting their face and like photos. It's just like the amount of things that are happening. Like I don't know how you can conquer the whole thing in a day.
But the event was not without controversy. Back in January, when tickets went on sale, social media lit up with frustrations.
We did not end up getting our Ulta Beauty World tickets.
Ulta posting on X, some 3 million people were in an online queue to get 3,000 tickets, and they all sold out in just over an hour. How did you get tickets to this event?
We got lucky.
I was online early. I was one of the few that got through.
I was just one of the lucky 3,000. I was on my laptop at like 30 minutes before and I said a prayer.
For more on Ulta Beauty World, visit clickorlando.com.
Well, we often tell you about the dangers on the road or maybe something going on that you need to look out for.
Yeah, but what about the tools you need for driving that help keep safety top of mind when you're on the roads? Well, today on Trooper Steve on patrol, Steve is letting us know what to know when you don't contribute to crashes.
Florida law guidance, suggestions, things like that, every handbook says that you should really be kind of completely confident about your next maneuver before you do it. What do I mean by that? It's more like, hey, if you're making the left turn, know that you can make that left turn before you even start it. So if there is traffic approaching oncoming and you know that there's going to be a problem or that there could be a problem with oncoming traffic, you're not going to even attempt that turn, right?
All right, so Steve says you need to make sure you wait until it is completely clear before you make a turn. If you want to watch the full episode to make sure you keep yourself safe, just head to this article on clickorlando.com. Hit the road with Trooper Steve on patrol weekdays at 2:30 in the afternoon and 8:30 at night on the new 6 Plus streaming app for your smart TV or clickorlando.com.
A major Florida-based airline is in trouble yet again.
Spirit Airlines' bankruptcy exit is now in limbo as jet fuel prices surge. Coming up, why this matters for travelers at Orlando International Airport and what it could mean for your wallet.
Warm-up continues over the next couple of days, really into the weekend as you crank up the thermostat into record territory. We're going to break down that part of your forecast and talk about when cooler air arrives once again, coming up at about 5:47.
First, though, a life-saving tool now easier to find in Volusia County coming up, where new Narcan locations are popping up across the area, including on a local college campus.
This portion of the news is sponsored by Shark Coatings.
New at 5, if you live in Volusia County, life-saving Narcan could now be closer than ever. A local nonprofit is expanding access to new Narcan dispensers across the area, including one right on Stetson University's campus in DeLand. The goal, get the overdose reversal drug into more hands faster, especially in high traffic and underserved communities. Foundations to Freedom also partnering with local businesses, even adding machines inside employee break rooms, along with training them on how to use it. Now, in just the past year, they've handed out more than 2,600 doses. Advocates say the more access people have, the more lives can be saved.
A major low-cost airline could be facing its final descent, and Central Florida could really feel it first. We're talking about Spirit Airlines. Rising fuel costs tied to the war in Iran are adding more pressure to the struggling carrier, and that's a big deal for Orlando International Airport, where Spirit is the second largest airline, moving millions of passengers every year. The airline filed for bankruptcy last year, and now CBS's Chris Van Cleve reports there are growing questions about how much time it has left.
Aaron and Danielle Katzoff rely on Spirit Airlines and its low fares for their monthly work travel. Trips that could cost them a lot more if the discount carrier gets grounded.
You're talking the difference of $1,000 a month easily, potentially, in airfare. That certainly eats into your bottom line.
They live in Atlantic City, but have a business in Florida and have been concerned since Spirit entered its second bankruptcy in a year last summer, leaving its future uncertain.
Well, my heart sank because it's so convenient for us to fly Spirit to West Palm.
Spirit has cut routes and costs in part by shrinking its fleet. The airline had more than 200 jets when it filed for bankruptcy last August and planned to have around 80 by the third quarter of this year. But as the price of jet fuel has nearly doubled since January, driven by the conflict in Iran, airline sources now tell CBS News some of Spirit's creditors question the airline's ability to make debt payments or return to profitability, which could lead the discount carrier to run out of financial runway.
Does it keep you up at night? Absolutely, every night.
Tim Kroll is the Atlantic City Airport director. He says Spirit is about 85% of their business.
We're hopeful that they'll be able to get through their restructuring, but we just have to wait and see what happens.
If Spirit were to shut down, what would be the impact here?
Enormous in terms of jobs, the concessions, the ground handlers at the airport. Obviously, they would lose those jobs.
For the Atlantic City Airport, that could mean hundreds of jobs, and for flyers, it would mean a drive to Philadelphia or Newark, the next nearest major airports. Spirit is declining to comment on these reports in the financial press that it could face liquidation in the coming days. The airline says it does not comment on market speculation or rumors. And we hear that as far as people at the airline know, there are no plans to change its operations. Flights are operating today as scheduled. The airline is still accepting reservations. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Houston.
All right, time now to get a check of your forecast with meteorologist Jonathan Kagas. We really could use some rain, but you're saying things are looking better than they did before.
It is. It's kind of smoke and mirrors, I think. We had that rain, of course, last week, and this goes back all the way to the early part of last week. Tuesday and Wednesday is what this comes up, and that's why we've had some subtle improvement. We were expecting this right along the Space Coast, mainly in southern Osceola and then southern Brevard County. We've gone from an extreme drought, 4 out of 5, to a severe drought, 3 out of 5. So we are still well within drought status, of course. We will be watching the drought likely get worse as we move forward, as rain chances are hard to come by. But for the first time in a while, at least some very subtle improvements on the drought monitor. Of course, we are still way below normal for the year. Orlando coming in about 4.9 inches below normal, a little more than 4.5 below in Daytona Beach, about 3.25 in Sanford. The only spot that we are a little bit above normal is Melbourne. We got all that rain last week, again, helping us out a little bit. Leesburg, we're about 3.5 inches, just a little bit over that, below normal from start to finish, or from start of the year to where we stand right now. In terms of ending this drought, of course, that's what the questions is. It's on everybody's mind. It's going to take about 24 inches to completely get rid of the drought. That's over a 3-month period. Now, we will be entering the wet season. Typically, that happens late May through the first week or so of June. Average through that time period is about 8 to 10 inches. We'd have to double our average and then some to make up that 24 inches. But we also have July and August, which obviously is still the wet season, as we get those daily thunderstorms, at least more often than not, to help take a bite out of that. And I think it's going to really take us until about July until we can say goodbye for good, at least for this time around, for the drought. In terms of the next 10 days, this is not through this Sunday. This is through next Sunday, so 10 days from now. Only about 0.05 of an inch of rain, give or take, through central Florida. We have a couple of weak cold fronts. They will deliver us some cooler air, but they won't deliver us much in the way of any kind of rainfall. Gorgeous shot out there, though. It's a live look in downtown Orlando with our Light Orlando delivering Hope Skycam. We have air temperatures back to the mid-80s. We have a few passing clouds out there. The breeze, it's out of the east-northeast at about 10 miles an hour. Oviedo, we're at 82 degrees. Good evening in Leesburg. We are at 83. 86 degrees in Ocala right now. Now, tomorrow morning, we're going to start things off into the low to mid-60s to make a run for 90 by the afternoon. For that, here's a look at your forecast.
Your forecast is sponsored by Advent Health.
Temperatures tomorrow back in the low 90s along the I-75 corridor, hanging around 90 in Apopka, Wedgefield. We are back to 88 degrees, low to mid 80s along the coast. There's some cooler air starting to bleed back, though, into the country in the northwest side, especially towards the upper Midwest, Northern Plains, Pacific Northwest. That is exactly where our chill is. And by the time we get into the second half of the weekend and into the work week, that front arrives, and you see what happens. We're at 80 on Monday, back to the upper 70s Tuesday and Wednesday.
Jonathan, thank you. Well, from food stamps all the way to outer space.
A history-making astronaut is sharing her journey like never before in a powerful new documentary. Coming up, the message Colonel Eileen Collins has for the next generation looking to the stars.
As NASA gears up for its next era in space, one pioneer is reflecting on the road that got us here.
Yeah, retired Air Force Colonel Eileen Collins made history as the first woman to pilot and command a space shuttle. Now her incredible journey is hitting the big screen in a new documentary called Space Woman, and it is inspiring a new generation to reach higher. As excitement builds around NASA's next chapter in space, one trailblazer says the journey forward is also a reminder of how far we've come.
Well, yes, space is back because we're doing something new now.
Retired Air Force Colonel Eileen Collins helped make history as the first woman to pilot and command a space shuttle.
Liftoff of Space Shuttle Discovery.
I flew twice as pilot, twice as commander.
Now her story is hitting the big screen with a new documentary currently in theaters called Space Woman. She reveals her path to space was anything but easy.
We were on welfare for a period of time after my dad went away. We were on food stamps.
At just 17 years old, Collins stepped into a role she never expected.
So I ended up with my younger brother and sister, to kind of taking care of them for several months. I mean, I took charge and I just did the mom thing.
Yeah. A dream that started in childhood didn't always feel within reach.
I was in 4th grade when I decided I wanted to be an astronaut, and back then there were no women astronauts, so that was like the first barrier.
Through community college and the military, she found her path and her confidence.
I really liked the organization of the military and the fact that you had a mission and you knew what was expected of you.
Years later, she would lead one of NASA's most critical missions, returning to flight after tragedy.
I knew that my flight was going to be the safest shuttle flight ever. I wasn't going to fly it unless I knew it was safe.
But even as a commander, she was still a mom, navigating fear at home.
Okay, say goodbye.
In the documentary, her daughter Bridget, who was just 9 at the time Collins commanded the return to space flight, reveals what it was like to have an astronaut mom.
A 7-year-old version of myself was like, Mom is going to die in space.
Today, Collins says space changed how she sees everything.
I look back at the Earth on my missions, and you look and say there's like 7 billion people on that planet, and everybody's got issues, everybody's got problems. It's not all about me. There's something so much bigger.
And as a new generation looks toward the stars, her message is simple.
You can do anything you want. You can even be an astronaut, because look at me, I made it.
And if given the chance to go back?
If they asked me to go, I would say yes.
Would you?
Oh, yeah.
She'd be good at it, too. Here's what we're working on for News 6 at 6. A new development in Daytona Beach after a troubling arrest was caught on camera.
We're now hearing from the state attorney's office tonight. Coming up, why neither the suspect nor the officer involved will face charges, plus what we're uncovering about that officer's past.
After 2 drownings, a Brevard commissioner tells me he'd be willing to raise your taxes to put lifeguards on every beach in the county.
Charges dropped after concerning video out of Daytona Beach, why the state attorney's office says the suspect won't face charges. Plus, beach safety is top of mind with a warm weekend ahead.
The best thing we can do is get that awareness out there and get people to understand what they're looking at, and if there is an emergency, how to get those folks there as fast as possible.
What leaders say you need to do to stay safe in the water. And
I'm Catherine Silver here in Seminole County, where we're learning a second deputy has been arrested for fraud. We now have the court documents that describe how he allegedly stole taxpayer dollars by logging hours he never worked.
News 6 at 6 starts now. Developing tonight, no charges will be filed against anyone after what Daytona Beach police have called troubling video.
Yeah, News 6 was the first to bring you this story as breaking news at noon. The video went viral last month. It appears to show a Daytona Beach officer punch a suspect repeatedly in the face. News 6 is learning tonight the man and his brother were arrested, but the charges will not be sticking. Your Volusia County community correspondent Molly Reed has the latest.
The state attorney's office would not tell me why the charges are not being filed against David and Victor Anderson, but it did send me documents today saying that the arrests were insufficient made by Daytona Beach police. This is part of the viral video from March 12th showing the altercation between 27-year-old David Anderson and Daytona Beach police officer Joel Linus. The officer's body camera video shows Linus stop Anderson for an open container.
Pour it out, or you're going to go to jail for open container. Those are your options.
Anderson hands over the bottle, then tosses the cork stopper. Linus moves to make the arrest. The video shows a struggle after Anderson is handcuffed. He ends up on the ground, and Linus then appears to throw several punches. Linus told investigators Anderson bit his wrist, according to the arrest report.
Go my hand!
The state attorney's office sent me these documents today. They show it will not prosecute Anderson's charge of battery on a law enforcement officer, nor his brother Victor's charge of resist or obstructing officer without violence. The state attorney's office tells me there will also not be any charges filed against Officer Linus. Local NAACP President Cynthia Slater tells me they're staying on top of what happens to the officer now.
The officer should have been trained in, should have been or was trained in de-escalation. He should not have taken it to a whole nother level.
I also reached out to the local police union executive director, who sent me a statement saying, in part, we stand by Officer Linus 100% because he was doing the job he was hired and trained to do. Any police officer who gets bitten and then has their wrist grabbed while trying to detain a suspect would and should do the same thing to protect themselves. I'm your Volusia County community correspondent Molly Reed, News 6.
Now, Officer Linus's personnel file shows a police department investigation from last year involving an arrest where Linus was accused of putting the barrel of his rifle up against a suspect's back and threatening to shoot the man. Officer Linus was given a written reprimand for violating the department's restrictions on deadly force policies. Now, his personnel file does also include 3 letters of commendation on jobs well done. And you can read more on this story right now on clickorlando.com. It's right on our homepage. All you have to do is look for this article.
Okay, let's take a live look at our Launch Credit Union camera. This is at Port Canaveral. Really a gorgeous evening across the coast once again.
Yeah, and here's a look at Daytona Beach, where a lot of people will likely head to the water this weekend because it's going to be a warm one. Perfect as those temperatures climb into record territory. Forecaster, you've been saying that it's so great out there, meteorologist Jonathan Kegas.
Absolutely, yeah. I was trying to look to see if we can spot any rip currents out there for sure. We're watching where the waves are not kind of breaking and they kind of split almost. That's where the undertow is kind of pulling back out to sea, and we're watching that. That's what you look for. That's why the lifeguards are hanging up a little bit higher so they can spot that stuff and alert you to where the lifeguard will be or where the rip current will be. Air temperatures this weekend, again, getting back into the lower 90s. That's going to put us in record territory. So certainly great beach weather. The ocean looks a little on the calmer side, but nonetheless, nonetheless, it's going to be still a little rocky in terms of that rip current risk, again, that we're watching over the next couple of days and really through the early part of next week at the very least. High rip current risk for the rest of tonight, getting into the weekend as well. The surf certainly calmed down a little bit from what we saw last week where we had those 8 to 10 foot breaking waves. Now they're breaking at about 2 to 4 feet, even lower as we get into tomorrow and the weekend. Still, though, that's the risk of it, the hidden risk anyway, as we watch, again, things that really taking place underneath the water. So, again, just keep that in mind. If you're heading to the beach, pay close attention, listen to what the lifeguards are telling you if those chairs are guarded again. Air temperatures, again, this weekend, back into the lower 90s. We're going to talk much more about when cooler days come back down the pipeline, coming back at about 6:17, guys.
After 2 drownings, a Brevard commissioner tells me he'd be willing to raise your taxes to put lifeguards on every beach in the county. The reality on most of the coastline, like where I'm at right now, is there aren't lifeguards here to save you. Would you like to see more lifeguards on beaches?
I would.
In Brevard County, lifeguards year-round are only working at 6 of the busiest beaches. Tuesday, Cocoa Beach says a man and a woman from different states drowned almost a mile away from the nearest lifeguard tower at Coconuts on the beach. The county told me the victims were the 2nd and 3rd people to drown in a rip current just this year. The first person who died was also swimming where there wasn't a lifeguard. What would it take to put lifeguards on every beach in the county?
And would be a significant budget increase.
County Commissioner Thad Altman told me tourists now help pay lifeguards through the tourism tax the county collects while they spend money here. It's not enough, though, he says, to put lifeguards everywhere someone's swimming. That money would have to come from those of us who live here. Increasing a budget like that, how would you do it? Would it have to be something like a tax increase?
It would be, and I would be for increasing the budget. I think it's important that we provide as much safety as possible.
If it's a matter of money, do you think this county should find the money?
Oh, they can find the money. You know, with all the wasted money and all the stuff that goes to other things, I think easy to find the money.
And right now, the county's actually trying to hire 45 new lifeguards, but that's just to cover a shortage. I'll let you know if Commissioner Altman plans on bringing any proposal before the commission about staffing more lifeguards on beaches and what it would cost. In Brevard County, I'm your Cocoa Beach community correspondent, James Sparvero, News 6.
Okay, so here's a look at what the flags you'll see mean on the beach. We've been telling you that this is where we've been for weeks because of these strong currents. These red flag warnings are in effect, meaning a strong hazard for swimmers, surf conditions, or currents. Yellow means it's a moderate current. Green is for low hazard or calm conditions. Purple means there's water life near where you may be swimming, you know, jellyfish or something. And a double red means the water is closed.
Well, as if being forced out of your home for nearly a month isn't enough of a headache, neighbors and Dr. Phillips are now hoping the things they left behind won't be taken from their now empty homes. The Orange County Sheriff's Office says a man stole bank cards and other items from the Rialto apartments. Deputies say Israel Jacobowitz was arrested this morning. He's facing multiple charges, including burglary and criminal mischief. More than 350 people were displaced from the complex back in March and have been stuck in limbo with nowhere to stay and no way to get their stuff back. Well, imagine just eating at a restaurant when parts of the building fall in on you. That's what happened to a woman in Pine Hills last year. Deja Stover is suing Flyers Wings and Grill after parts of the ceiling and an air conditioning unit came crashing down, falling on her and her daughter while they were eating dinner. The lawsuit is seeking damages of more than $50,000 from October. State records show the restaurant was cited for ceiling violations 2 months later. Stover says that she's still feeling the impacts of her injuries months later.
I had a brain injury, so it was kind of hard to walk outside with the sunlight. Also, I had bulging discs in my neck. I had my birthday parties there. I have celebrations there. No one really came and helped me off the ground when it happened.
News 6 reached out to the restaurant about the allegations and what's being done to fix the ceiling, but we have not yet heard back. In Volusia County, the man accused of driving his car through a gate and onto the runway at Daytona Beach Airport is now officially facing charges. A federal grand jury returned an indictment today against 58-year-old Brian Parker. Then investigators say he tried to get into multiple planes last month. If convicted, Parker faces the maximum penalty of 30 years in prison.
Well, back in December, we told you about a former Sanford police officer, Ronnie Neal, arrested for nearly a year of false off-duty work. Neal is due in court tomorrow, by the way. But now, a Seminole County deputy was arrested for allegedly falsifying overtime records. And we're learning exactly how much taxpayer money a former school resource officer is accused of pocketing after logging hours investigators say he never worked. Your Seminole County community correspondent, Catherine Silver, has the documents.
The Seminole County Sheriff's Office says one of their own deputies turned himself in to the jail after a warrant was issued for his arrest for organized fraud. Records show since he was booked, Kevin Jones was released quickly on a $2,500 bond. We came to the courthouse Thursday to find out exactly what Jones is accused of. We got this arrest affidavit. It says Jones submitted false timesheets 21 times starting back in November of 2024. The sheriff's office believes he logged 84 hours of overtime, but actually worked 55 hours. It's a difference of 29 hours, more than $1,700 he's accused of overcharging. The affidavit says Jones worked those overtime details here at the Greenwood Lakes Library in Lake Mary. And one of the library managers actually raised the alarm when she noticed inconsistencies on his timesheet. This is the second time we've gotten a hold of court documents that accuse a deputy of falsifying overtime hours he worked at this library. In February, we told you Nestor Nieves Jr. was accused of pocketing nearly $6,000 and hiding his location to do it. Jones's affidavit also accuses him of deliberately turning off the tracking software on his laptop, a violation of orders. Both deputies were served with notices of proposed discipline for termination. The sheriff's office says Jones was a school resource officer at Geneva Elementary before he was suspended in August, and their investigation started. Jones has been a deputy here in Seminole County for a decade. I asked the sheriff's office again Thursday about oversight. They released a statement saying anytime allegations of misconduct arise, they are thoroughly investigated and they remain committed to accountability, transparency, and trust. In Seminole County, I'm Catherine Silver, News 6.
All right, let's take a live look at the Kia Center from our Light Orlando camera. The Orlando Magic will hope to keep that season alive tomorrow night against the Charlotte Hornets. It is a win or go home for both teams looking to make it to the first round of the NBA playoffs. The Magic had a golden opportunity slip away last night, losing to the 76ers. While it was very close for most of the game, the Magic led for less than 3 minutes of the whole thing. The winner will go on to face the top-seeded Detroit Pistons. And it's the end of the season for the other team. Tip-off from the Kia Center is at 7:30 and still to come on News 6 at 6.
Well, this flower shop in Winter Gardens say they are seeing the impact of having higher gas prices, how they're handling it ahead of Mother's Day.
This portion of the news is sponsored by Advent Health.
When you stop for gas, you're probably going to be groaning at the price or putting it off as long as you can.
Yeah, but for local businesses that rely on deliveries, that's not really an option. And it's now hurting the bottom line for a lot of those businesses, including a flower shop in Winter Garden. Your Orange County community correspondent, Tylisa Hampton, was in Winter Garden speaking to the shop owner now working to keep their flowers affordable.
We're going behind the scenes of this flower shop in Winter Garden that's been open for years. However, they say this year they're facing challenges with higher gas prices, really having to pivot how they handle deliveries ahead of Mother's Day. Here at Betty J's Florist in Winter Garden, they've spent decades tending to every flower, but this year there's a new thorn in their side.
The tariffs have hurt us. Inflation has hurt us, gas prices have hurt us, flower prices have quadrupled.
With Mother's Day quickly approaching, manager Mary Beth Jackson knows orders will soon pour in, with many of them requiring delivery.
You know, the last year we did deliveries, we did over 100.
But despite higher gas prices, they're not passing that cost on to customers.
Most of them have been doing business with Betty J's for 2 or 3 generations and their family. We don't want to do any more damage to their budget than flowers already do.
Already knowing they're going to be spending more money at the pump.
We're going to be spending probably the week of Mother's Day $1,000 or more in gas prices.
Wanting to make each delivery count. They're already re-strategizing how they make their deliveries because of those higher gas prices.
Everything's got to go out as expeditiously as possible. There's a couple of neighborhoods in Winter Garden that we will not go to on Mother's Day.
Drivers will be focused on moving quickly and efficiently to make sure every arrangement arrives right on time and still feels special.
All right, sir, tell her happy birthday from Betty J's.
And Jackson says there are other options to find cheaper flowers like at big box stores, but if you want their fresh flowers, to just give them a call, tell them what works within your budget, and she says they will try to work with you. Reporting in Winter Garden, I'm your West Orange County community correspondent, Tylisa Hampton.
Happening right now, Eustis City leaders are working on a plan to help the city recover from last year's historic washout.
Yeah, this had a big impact on neighbors all over Lake County, including in the Spring Ridge Estates community, where people were forced out of their homes after a part of the road partially collapsed. So let's take you live to this meeting where commissioners are voting to borrow money from a general fund to raise stormwater rates. The increase would be about $4 per month per household. Now, the city of Eustis paid nearly $175,000 for repairs to a culvert in this community. About 20 homes were evacuated for about 2 weeks in October before being able to return with the culvert reinforced now. Neighbors spoke with News 6's Mark Lehman saying while the potential hike could impact them, they understand why this needs to be a discussion.
Even a $4 increase hurts, and it is impactful. We certainly need to chip in, a little bit, and I'm ready to do that as long as it's kept in check and we're not overtaxed in this whole situation.
Again, leaders are meeting right now to vote on this very proposal. We'll bring you updates tonight on News 6 at 10 and 11.
Those drainage systems are so expensive. We haven't needed them recently, though.
No.
Meteorologist Jonathan Kegas joins us. We're looking at maybe some near record heat this weekend.
Yeah, once we get to Saturday and Sunday, we're going to be talking about air temperatures getting back to the low 90s. A few of us are going to be close to breaking some records. It's going to be a good weekend weather-wise for the beach. We keep on talking about it. Just be careful. The red flag's likely flying across all Atlantic beaches because of that hidden risk, that rip current risk. Again, certainly approaching high tide tonight in Daytona Beach and across the East Coast beaches. We're back to the upper 70s right now with just a few passing clouds. Air temperature is back into the east-southeast at about 5 to 10 miles an hour, helping those air temperatures get back into the 70s. Tomorrow, we're back into the lower 80s, and we'll be back to the middle 80s if you're heading to the beach. By the time we get into the weekend, we'll be in the low to mid 90s inland. Again, great weekend for the beach. Just watch out for that high risk for rip currents. The breeze backs off even more. The breeze out of the east at about 5 to 10 miles an hour. The waves breaking only at 2 feet. So we've come almost full circle all the way back down to where they are likely at most of the time after it was very active. Those big waves that crashed in last week. High tide tomorrow. We are approaching that high tide cycle again for this evening. The rip currents are most susceptible to being on the higher side at high tide. They're not zero at low tide, but certainly the more of a risk at high tide. That'll happen in the morning. Low tide going to be back towards the early afternoon, then high tide again tomorrow evening just before 9 o'clock in Daytona Beach. We're at 85 right now in Groveland, 80 in Holopop, Melbourne. Good evening. We are back to 77, 86 in Ocala, Denellen. We are checking in at 85 degrees tonight. Nice, comfortable morning again, seasonably cool, back to the lower 60s, 58 degrees in Denellen. Palm Coast, we are hanging out at right around 60 degrees. Now here's a look at tomorrow afternoon.
Your forecast is sponsored by Strata Services.
Air temperatures tomorrow hanging around 90 degrees in Orlando, 88 in Kissimmee. We're at 83 in New Smyrna Beach. Lower 90s already coming our way right along the I-75 corridor. Those are going to warm up even further as we get into Saturday and Sunday. Next system, it's already building back towards our north and west, northwest of Denver even. But that's going to be our next cold front. That will arrive early next work week. But out ahead of that, that's where we're talking about the potential for some record heat. So we're fast forwarding to Saturday. There is the front situated from about Buffalo all the way down to Houston. You see the rain and thunderstorms alongside of it. It's coming here, right? The front is, but watch the rain chances fizzle out as that front slides through. There will be a few scattered showers around late Sunday night, early Monday morning, only at 20%. We all get some of the cooler air coming in, but you see rain chances scattered at best. Most of that staying out into the Atlantic as that cooler, drier air punches back in. But again, ahead of that front, we are warm. 91 the temperature in Orlando. The record is 93. So in the ballpark, 92 in Sanford. Our record is 94. Again, I think closest in Leesburg, we have the forecast at 92. Our old record is 90. So going to have the best opportunity in Leesburg to watch the records fall. 91 on Saturday, 91 on Sunday. There's the cold front, 20% shot for a couple of those showers pushing through. You see the temperatures drop to around 80 on Monday. We're falling back into the upper 70s on Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll be right back.
Some breaking news now, just into our newsroom. We are learning right now that the teenager accused of killing his stepsister will be arraigned in federal court next week. 16-year-old Timothy Hudson is charged with murder and aggravated sexual abuse in the death of Anna Kepner. She is the 18-year-old from Titusville who was found dead on a Carnival cruise ship last year. Hudson is being charged as an adult. He is due in federal court in Miami next Wednesday at 10 in the morning.
In Daytona Beach, we're learning no one will be facing charges in the video that shows a police officer punching a man in the head. Documents from the state attorney's office show it will not prosecute the charge of battery on a law enforcement officer against the man who punched or his brother charged with resisting arrest and obstructing an officer without violence.
Well, it is win or go home for your Orlando Magic tomorrow night. The team hosts the Hornets, looking to make it the first round of the NBA playoffs. The Magic losing to the 76ers in Philly 109-97 last night. The winner tomorrow night will go on to face the top-seeded Detroit Pistons. Tip-off from the Kia Center tomorrow night is at 7:30.
Much more coming up on your news at 9 o'clock on clickorlando.com and the News 6 Plus streaming app.
Until then, have a good night. Bye.
I'm News 6 anchor Matt Austin. Here's a look at today's top stories. A jury is officially charging the man accused of crashing his car through a fence at the Daytona International Airport and driving into a runway. Investigators say Brian Parker then tried to get into multiple planes last month. If convicted, Parker faces a maximum penalty of 30 years in prison. Life-saving Narcan is coming to more parts of Volusia County. A local nonprofit's expanding access with new Narcan dispensers across the area, including one right on Stetson University's campus in DeLand. The goal, get the overdose reversal drug into more hands faster, especially in high-traffic and underserved communities. Foundations to Freedom also partnering with local businesses, even adding machines inside employee break rooms, along with training on how to use them. The Oviedo mayor is responding after a controversial decision by Seminole County Public Schools could cancel out-of-state field trips. Parents first raised concerns after a state champion volleyball team was denied a trip to Hawaii. The district cited budget pressures and signaled a possible ban on out-of-state travel, even though the team raised money on their own to travel. Oviedo Mayor Megan Sladek is pushing back, launching a petition to save those trips, calling for more flexibility from the district. The petition says the school board has since stepped in, asking for the policy to be revisited. That's it for now. We'll have a look at your forecast in the next 15 minutes.